If you sell on Etsy or you're thinking about selling on Etsy and you're wondering if you can sell trademarked or licensed items, this video is for you. Now, I do have a disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, and the funny thing is, Etsy says the same thing. They're not a lawyer either, so they can't really advise you on legal matters, and I can't advise you on legal matters. But I am going to share a story with you on what happened to me, and that is I received an intellectual property rights violation, strike, I don't know what you want to call it. And it was about 1.5 years ago, and I was selling a craft product that had a logo in it for the Oakland A's, so the Oakland Athletics. Now, the licensing for that is managed through the Major League Baseball, so MLB. And I know for a fact they did not reach out to Etsy and say, take Kim's listing down and leave everybody else's. So I'm going to say that this is a case of Etsy having untrained personnel, okay? So what happened was I received the strike, I contacted them, and the representative at Etsy said, well, you're selling handmade and it's manufactured. And I said, yes, it is manufactured. It is a licensed design through a manufacturer, and I am a reseller of this craft product. And they said, okay, then it's an intellectual rights violation. So originally I was reported for something else, which wasn't accurate, probably a competitor that was reporting it. And then they said, okay, well, we're changing what we're delisting this for. And then it was when I said, hey, look, I have proof that I'm a licensed seller of this, that I know that the MLB didn't contact you and say, take down this listing. There's 15 other people selling the exact same product. Why did you take my listing down? And they wrote back and said, we're not going to talk to you about this anymore. And when I said, can I get the information where my lawyer can send a letter, they refused to talk to me anymore. So I had a strike. I couldn't be star seller. I couldn't participate in, whatever special things that involved. And that was for like an entire year. And then right around October, this kind of went away, which is where this is very interesting. So this is the intellectual property policy, which, if you note, is effective from December 1st, 2022. Okay. So this means that there have been some changes, and you can read through this. I'm not going to go through all of it, but there are a couple of things I wanted to point out. So first of all, Etsy's role is basically in the middle, right? So if somebody feels that there's an intellectual rights violation, that could be copyright, that could be trademark, that could be whatever other people want to complain about, then they have to have the rights to it. And they contact Etsy and say, hey, this person is violating my rights. Here's the proof that I own the rights to this. And Etsy says that they'll go ahead and ask for the proof and everything else. Now they have a form and they do all of this on their own. There's a lot of automation involved in it, so there is room for error. And that's why if you do get an invalid claim, which I'll talk about in just a second because it happened to me again, then you do need to fight it if you can. And I'll talk about it in just a second. Let's go over this a little bit more. So the reports of intellectual property infringement have to come from the person who owns the intellectual property, and it has to be legally registered. So if somebody just goes, oh, I made that, they have to prove it, right? They have to prove that it's either trademarked or it's copyrighted in some way. Now, that's vague, right? And of course, if you were to ask a lawyer, they would tell you there are a lot of vague things out there. Like there's some law that says something about if you publish it, it's copyrighted. There's a level of copywriting already. I don't know how true that is, but I don't think that would work for Etsy. They'd have to have it legally copyrighted or not. I don't know, right? I mean, because how the heck did they get past the first one? So they have information on here and how to report everything. They also say that you need to be the person that owns it. Otherwise, they could take action against you if you abuse the policy. So if you're like, oh, hey, that listing's is a Disney product, which there's a ton of them on the site, right? There's a ton of them on the site that are illegally printing Disney products on many things and selling them as their own products. And that's completely against trademark terms, right? And copywriting terms, but they do it anyway. So they could get in trouble one day, but Disney would have to take action because it's their trademark. Now, of course, they talk about counter notice and repeat infringement. They can terminate your account. But, And you'll notice here, per our terms of use, Etsy reserves the right to terminate account privileges at any time for any reason and without advance notice. So that's interesting, right? And this has always been the case, but I think that they're going to be a little bit harsher on this. If it causes them grief, they're just going to terminate your account. So you need to take that into consideration. Are you selling a lot already? And if you are, then it's probably not worth putting trademark or copyright materials in there unless that's what you're selling. And then that might be your business model and you have to do it. Now, withdrawals, this is not about money, but this is about withdrawing the infringement report. But I should say that brings up the importance of Etsy can hold your money. And there's been many, many sellers who have had problems and Etsy holds the money. And they don't ever follow up with us in the forums and say, oh yeah, I got my money, or no, I never did. They don't say that. So that's between them and Etsy. And I suspect there's a time frame where they eventually will get it, but I don't know for sure because I haven't gone through that one. So again, you can go through all of this and read it if you really have questions on that. But here's the bottom line, right? And I'll give you this example. I recently relisted a bunch of my items that had expired. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time to put them over my website yet. I'm just going to go ahead and relist them and worry about moving them over later. And there was like, a couple hundred listings. I relisted them and all of a sudden I'm flagged again for some sort of infringement. And I'm going, what the heck? And I pulled it up and it was some generic, non-licensed, it's a craft product, general unicorn, no reason whatsoever. But their system automatically flagged it. There was no tags, there was nothing in the description, no reason whatsoever. So whatever they had in there to flag it, just flagged it. I did not have an option to appeal. In fact, it told me not to contact them regarding it, that they would internally review it, and if they found that it was a violation, they would contact me. Otherwise, they just magically relist the product. They ended up relisting it. So obviously it wasn't a violation, but it's kind of annoying and it's a little scary. What if it had been multiple strikes when they had done that? Would they have shut my shop down until they reviewed it? So trademark license things, you could have a problem even if you're not doing it, right? But if you are specifically looking at, and a big question we have is that we do sell licensed products. My sister and I, we have licensed products, we are resellers, we have licenses to resell them. So we have a legal right to resell them. So even if a company came and said, hey, you can't do that, we have a paper trail that says, yes, we can. So we could get away with probably getting our account back. But again, Etsy has the right to terminate the account for any reason. So really what you're looking at is, if you're going to do this, you definitely need a backup, right? You need a backup plan for the inevitable Etsy shuts you down because they feel like it. Then you need to move on to something else. So to answer the question, can I sell licensed or trademarked items? That is really up to you. And I'm going to give you one more brief example in vintage. So in the vintage category, there are a lot of people who might sell like a vintage Coca-Cola design, some sort of sign or something. And many times they will get flagged for infringement because it is a trademarked design. And there's nothing they can do about it because they can't fight it. They can't prove they have the rights to sell it, even though it's a vintage design. And Etsy doesn't care what laws are out there. They can do what they want with your account. So the moral of the story is you can, but you might get in trouble for it. You just have to keep that in mind and plan accordingly. And if it's really a problem or that's what you really heavily rely on, you have to have a backup. So when Etsy shuts your account down, you have somewhere to send your customers, okay? And I'm actually going to talk about that in the next video. So thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, you're looking to build your e-commerce business, whether from scratch or you're looking to scale it, subscribe and let me know what you're looking for. Thanks.